Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing my favorite Open Great League team so far for this new Season 24 Great League meta. This team is built around two newly buffed Pokemon, Shadow Alolan Ninetales and Goodra. For Shadow Alolan Ninetales, Weather Ball does extra damage this season, helping its neutral matchups. I use Goodra as a safe switch, as Goodra has really nice neutral matchups and can spam out Aqua Tails and Thunder Punches faster this season, and as a closer, the ever-deadly Morpeco, which I feel like a lot of teams are completely disrespecting. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in Game 1 we pick up the Dream Lead Shadow Alolan Ninetales into Altaria. Opponent safe switches into a Shadow Marowak, and teams are just disrespecting Ice right now. You may notice that I am on Blizzard as my second charge move. Now this is something you can run. Psyshock or Dazzling Gleam are going to work better, but when I tried to TM off Blizzard, it kept alternating between Blizzard and Ice Beam, so I just gave up and ran Blizzard. Blizzard does end up being clutch in a few matchups. Again, it's not a moveset that I'd necessarily recommend, but it's just what I got stuck with, so I figured I may as well use it. We're able to KO the Marowak, in comes Dedenne as their final Pokemon, and I'm always going to be pivoting into the Goodra. Goodra lands Aqua Tail, in comes Altaria, and at this point my opponent's fate is sealed. They have energy banked on the Dedenne, but there's not really a whole lot they're going to be able to do. The Alolan Ninetales is pretty comfortably outside of Parabolic charge range, so they're going to need to land a Play Rough there, and I still have Morpeco. I'm always going to be letting Goodra go. I was able to get so much damage onto the Altaria, and now I just go for an energy lead on the Morpeco. I know that a Flamethrower is going to do way less than a Play Rough, so I will always no shield as they go for the Flamethrower. Switch clocks up, and in comes Dedenne. Dedenne going to be immediately debuffed with Psychic Fangs. That's going to get them into the red HP. I debate doing 3 and a catch of the Parabolic, but I decided to just stay in, shield, and apply a ton of debuffs. My opponent actually Play Roughed. I almost went for the catch, and they read the catch, so they went for the Play Rough, trying to anticipate the switch in and get a cheeky knockout, but luckily for me, I did not go for the catch. Instead, I stayed in and shielded. They're double debuffs, which means these Powder Snows are easily going to farm them down, and my opponent will resign the match. We move to the next match, Alolan Ninetales into Shadow Marowak. Again, an amazing lead for the Ninetales. Opponent safe switches into a Thunderfang Steelix. A lot of the times, if you see Marowak and Steelix, the third is going to be Bastiodon. I have a really good counter to Bastiodon available to me with the Morpeco in the back. As long as Morpeco has a shield, it just dramatically outpaces the Bastiodon. I'm able to put so much pressure onto the Steelix, and now I can just send in Goodra and always no shield. It's really unlikely that Steelix is running Breaking Swipe in the Great League because Breaking Swipe is just expensive and a really poor move. Obviously, it gets guaranteed debuffs, but it's such an inefficient attack. Here, they could try and land an Earthquake. I do not want them to flip switch, so I will put up the shield. There is the Earthquake, and now back in comes the Marowak. Marowak immediately met with this Aqua Tail. They can't farm me down either. Goodra will hang on and make it to a second Aqua Tail, and that's going to force my opponent to throw energy. I think this is 5 Powder Snow range, and if it is, that means that I'm not going to have to take a move, and I do get that farm down. I'm expecting a switch into Bastiodon. There it is, and now I can send out Morpeco. I don't Aura Wheel instantly just because I do want a little bit of residual energy for when I expect them to eventually switch out. So now I get to land that Aura Wheel, Morpeco boosted up more and more. There's the switch into Steelix. I get to farm up to the back-to-back Aura Wheels, and this game is over as Morpeco is just absolutely sweeping. I'm now at +2. Back in comes the Bastiodon, and it's all over. +2 Aura Wheel crushes Bastiodon. They hang on with fractional HP, but 2 Thundershocks will get the farm down and secure the win. We move to the next morning, now picking up a tricky lead, Alolan Ninetales into Galarian Corsola. Galarian Corsola does have a pretty good neutral matchup into Ninetales. I believe Ninetales only wins the 2s. However, what my opponent is probably not expecting is I have Blizzard because the game refuses to give me another charge move. So we full send the Blizzard, one-shot the Corsola, in comes Empoleon, and I'm going to save switch into Goodra. Save switch Goodra would be the exact same thing I do if it's an Empoleon lead, because Goodra is able to tank Drill Pecks pretty comfortably and look to return fire by spamming out these Thunder Punches and grabbing shields away from my opponent. My opponent now going to send in Togekiss as their final Pokemon. They bank a move on the Empoleon. Togekiss will take super effective damage from Thunder Punch. They put up the shield. I can't get to another Thunder Punch, so I'm forced to just settle for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail never going to do a ton of damage. I get the Weather Ball, but my opponent will win charge attack priority. I decide to let this go because I think having a shield for Morpeco will be valuable. Morpeco actually gets one turn bring in there. I really haven't had one turn bring in much, but unfortunately I do have it here. In comes the Empoleon. They have the Hydro Cannon banked, but the Hydro Cannon will not be enough to KO. Now I'm worried that this one turn may actually cost me the game because I should have one more Thundershock residual than I have. I'm really hoping I can survive 4 Pecks, so it will not matter, and luckily it does not matter. I really haven't seen one turn much at all recently, so to have it just crop up in that game was very scary, but luckily we're still able to take the win. Alolan Ninetales into Togekiss in the next match. One thing I really like about this team is the entire team can hit flyers for super effective damage. So no matter where a flyer is positioned, you're always able to apply some really nice damage. Togekiss will lose the 2s. They get outpaced. They're straight 10-turn pacing, whereas Ninetales is 10-8-10. So I'm pretty confident in the 2s my opponent will try and catch out. I'm so confident, in fact, that I'm not even going to wait the turn. I'm just going to overfarm past the Weather Ball, anticipating them to go for a catch. So I don't even click near the move. There's the switch into Furret, and it's time. We get to the Blizzard. I may be stuck with this move due to TMs, but I'm making it count as we one-shot the Furret, and in comes Toedscruel. Toedscruel now going to be answered with Goodra. Goodra, unfortunately, not the greatest matchup into Toedscruel, but it's so much better than if it was stuck on the Morpeco. They're able to debuff me with Wrap. I farm up pretty close to the back-to-back Aqua Tails. Aqua Tail is going to land on a Toedscruel. There's the switch into Togekiss. I tried to throw 1 in the move, but I accidentally throw 2 in the move, and that's going to cost me that energy. In comes Morpeco. Morpeco does get the farm down. In comes Toedscruel, immediately debuffed with the Psychic Fangs, but Psychic Fangs will not be enough to knock out. Toedscruel does have good bulk to it. This is going to be a very tricky game. Toedscruel immediately under-taps the move, so they do give me a free Thundershock. Seed Bomb lands. Can I hang on? Yes, I can. Morpeco, second time in 2 games, surviving on very low HP. The high-rank Morpeco paying dividends as we escape with the win. Nightmare lead in the next match, leading Alolan Ninetales into Empoleon. I save switch into Goodra, and my opponent is going to respond with Torterra. They throw after 4 Mud Slaps, which means this can only be a Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb, not a problem whatsoever. I'm guaranteed to win Switch or Shield advantage in this matchup, and ideally I would love Switch because I really don't want Empoleon onto the Ninetales, but I would still also take Shield advantage. So Aqua Tail is going to land. I win Switch advantage. That's really, really good for me. They send in Empoleon. Empoleon gets the farm down, but now out comes Morpeco. Morpeco, these Thundershocks do add up. They're highly likely to shield anything I throw, so I'm going to be building up to the Ore Wheel, but I will bait with the Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs will obviously help me catch back up since the Empoleon is so far ahead in terms of energy. Empoleon now taking some pretty significant damage. They're Shadow, so again, I'm going to be double shielding my Morpeco. They're going to switch. In the back is Credilli. I bank an Ore Wheel for later and send in the Ninetales. Ninetales going for the Weather Ball right away. Weather Ball is going to land big damage, and now my opponent will knock me out with the Rock Tomb. The good news for me is I have a ton of energy loaded on the Morpeco, so I can farm up to the back-to-back Ore Wheels. I want to be boosted exiting this matchup, so I go for the Ore Wheel. That's going to be shielded. Now I can CMP tie with the Psychic Fangs, but they catch onto Empoleon. Empoleon was about half HP, so I am going to go for a slight undercharge there, but no, they had less health than I remembered, and I should have undercharged more because I'm 1 off the move, and they're going to take the win. Oh my goodness, it was such a nightmare lead, but it was a very winnable game. Unfortunately, misremembering the health bar on that Empoleon is what cost me. Great lead in the next match, Alolan Ninetales into Stunfisk. The fact that the Stunfisk is staying in means it's probably going to be a Stunfisk double flyer team. Either that, or it could be Stunfisk, Flyer, and Dugong, which is the Inadequance team, but either way, Ice on the lead I think is really, really good. Ice types in general are difficult to use because of Pokemon like Empoleon that can just completely beat every single Ice type. However, I think that it's still worth the risk. Opponent sends in a Togekiss, and this is pretty nice. I'm going to get some nice fast move pressure onto Togekiss with Powder Snow. I can get a shield as well. they do get a huge energy head start, and now I'm going to bring out Morpeco. Morpeco has to respect the Aura Sphere. This would easily one-shot. Morpeco is very, very frail. Togekiss is already at a second Aura Sphere, so I will be forced to burn all shields of the match on this Morpeco. Unfortunately, Morpeco is not going to get the farm down, so I'm forced to throw the Psychic Fangs right before they get the Aura Sphere. If they shield, they have the Aura Sphere. I have to save Morpeco, so I switch into Goodra. They're going to switch. In the back is Murkrow, and here is another scenario where having 3 Pokemon that can hit flyers for super effective is so nice. As we land that Thunder Punch, in comes Togekiss. Togekiss survives on 1 HP to get the double up on Aura Spheres, but Aura Sphere does not KO. Goodra hangs on and will take the win with the Aqua Tail. For being triple weak to ice, my opponent made that game incredibly close. That's just the power of Togekiss. Terrible lead in the next match, leading Alolan Ninetales into Volt Switch Fortress. I save switch into Goodra, and I will go for the harder hitting Thunder Punch before they're able to land a Rock Tomb. Thunder Punch lands, they're going to switch out and send in Furret. I farm up a ton of energy with the Goodra, and I will go for the Thunder Punch before they get the double up. Thunder Punch is going to land. A second Thunder Punch will put them pretty close to farm down range. So Thunder Punch number 2 into the Furret will actually grab a shield. Switch clocks up, but I don't have a resistance to normal on this team, so I'm just going to stay in and let myself get KO'd. Back in comes Ninetales to absorb energy from the Furret, but they make a brilliant play. They save the Furret energy, snipe with the Rock Tomb. I no shield, I can survive. In comes Morpeco. I'm going to CMP tie my Aura Wheel with their Rock Tomb. This obviously will easily KO. My opponent puts up the shield, so they very clearly want to try and get shields down and then snipe with their double Swifts. So I will shield back, and then I can do the exact same thing I did. Throw 6 Thunder Shocks and the Aura Wheel, CMP tie them. Aura Wheel will easily knock out, and it'll leave me at +1 attack. Switch clock should be up momentarily. There it is. We get the catch onto the Alolan Ninetales. They do have a second Swift banked, however, which means there goes my final shield. But in catching, I have kept my Morpeco very healthy. Let's see if I can get the farm down here. I cannot, so I will go for the Aura Wheel. While this is massive overkill, I want to exit this matchup at +1 attack. So now I'm at +1 attack for whatever's in the back. In the back is a Azumarill, and this game will be a win. Morpeco gets the double up on Aura Wheels. This Aura Wheel is Dark type, so it's not going to do a lot, but this next one is going to be electric. We win charge attack priority over Azumarill, and we survive. Fortress, a nightmare Pokemon for this team, but Morpeco is able to take the win. We see a great lead in the next match, Alolan Ninetales into Corviknight. Now, since Corviknight no longer runs Iron Head, it means this matchup is actually really good. If you happen to be stuck on Blizzard like me, you can win the zeros, just straight Blizzard, and the Corviknights really don't like to shield. So you can always win Switch, and then their ground type that they inevitably have in the back, you can align onto Goodra. However, I'm going to make a huge misplay in this game. I decide to save the Blizzard. That's a huge error, because I'm not going to have switch advantage, and that means that when they send in their ghost is not aligned onto Morpeco. This is a really common team composition. It's Corviknight, a ghost, and then a ground type, so you really want switch advantage with this team. I included this battle just to show how even though you can have a winning comp on paper, if you mess up, you can still end up losing. And I end up losing this battle because I saved all the energy on the Ninetales. I didn't play for Switch, and Switch was what I needed because in the back is a Unova Stunfisk. If I have Switch advantage and I land the Blizzard instead of saving it, then I'm going to have Goodra on the Stunfisk, which is winning for Goodra, and I would have the Morpeco aligned onto the Dusclops. So that would also just be winning for me. I will go for the Dark Aura Wheel. Opponent puts up a shield. The only way that I can see myself winning this game is if I snipe with a Blizzard. They are at -1 defense. I snipe with a Blizzard, hoping against hope that for some reason they let it go, but they have every reason to shield here, and they do. In comes Corviknight, and I will resign the match. Hopping into the final match, we see a terrible lead, Alolan Ninetales into Turtonator. I save switch into Goodra. Turtonator is going to stay in. Turtonator can threaten with a Dragon Claw. That would do quite a lot of damage. Turtonator, one of the few Pokemon that will actually still use Dragon Claw as a move. I will respect it, and there it is. Now they're going to send out Azumarill. I'm going to throw the Thunder Punch right before they're able to get to their Play Rough, but they don't commit. Instead, they just go for the Ice Beam. Ice Beam is super effective, but it does not knock out. I can save all this energy and bring in Morpeco, and I make it to the Electric Aura Wheel on charge attack priority. Electric type Aura Wheel into the Azu does get shielded. They do put up the final shield, and I'm going to have to shield back because an Ice Beam would inflict a ton of damage. So I'm now +1 attack. In comes the Gastrodon, and Gastrodon's not going to like the Dark type Aura Wheel. Launching this Aura Wheel at the Gastrodon, +1 attack. Big damage onto Gastrodon. Switch timers up. They throw instantly. They will get the knockout onto Morpeco, but all this does is set up farm for the Alolan Ninetales. And even though they had a fire type lead, it's a fire dragon, which means my ice type moves will actually hit for neutral. Opponent is going to send in that Turtonator. Incinerate is going to do a ton of damage, but so will my Weather Ball. Weather Ball lands, opponent switches, predicting a snipe attempt, but I just stay in with the Ninetales. I throw this Weather Ball to hopefully put them into double Thunder Punch range. Now in comes the Goodra. I already have the double Thunder Punches locked and loaded from earlier. Bubble's never going to do a lot. I throw one Dragon Breath and the Thunder Punch, hoping that this will be enough to knock out, and it is. In comes Turtonator. Turtonator gets the farm down, but their Dragon Claw Brutal Swing, they don't have any charge moves that can do meaningful damage. We get the farm down, and we're able to take the win. Across the 4 sets that I ran with this team, I believe I went 16-4. And these battles were in rank 17, so we're going up against some pretty solid competition. I think this definitely is more of an anti-meta style of team, but it felt really, really strong. We're in a meta where a lot of people are trying out different dragons, they're trying out Mud Slappers, and the combination of Stunfisk plus Flyer is being revealed to be an extremely strong core, and I like that Alolan Ninetales can target down all of that. Ninetales does great into the Mud Slappers, destroys the dragons, with the obvious exception of Turtonator, which we did end up seeing, but Turtonator isn't too common, and it does a great job at stun locking that Stunfisk plus Flyer team. As the Stunfisk is forced to stay in, it's identical pacing, they lose charge stack priority, and then whatever Flyer they send in is immediately going to have to go down a shield. So I really liked how this team felt. Goodra felt like a really nice safe swap. Obviously the team has certain weaknesses. We are triple weak to Tinkaton, so if you see a Tinkaton, probably going to be a loss unless you can really set up Morpeco in an endgame to just run away and completely sweep a team. Additionally, the team is a little bit soft to Dedenne, but the Dedennes that I saw, I felt didn't ever feel too overwhelming to deal with. Finally, I do want to mention Morpeco. I think Morpeco, it's back to being a really solid Go Battle League Pokemon. Morpeco has incredibly fast pacing, and teams aren't really factoring it in when it comes to team building, so it can catch a lot of teams off guard and just really run away with endgames, as we saw in quite a few of today's matches. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.